Welcome to In the Spotlight. I'm Eric Townell. My guest today is Nora Brown. She is the Executive Director for the Rochester Finger Lakes Film Commission. Thanks for coming in, Nora. It's great
Thanks
to see
for
you.
having me. It's great to be here.
We have our red Solo cups today, like we're on location.
That's right.
Well, it must be a wonderful area to have your job, Film Commissioner for the Rochester and Finger Lakes.
I have to argue with people a lot about who has the best job in town.
Yeah.
I really believe that it's me.
I should imagine. Well, we have such a great film history here, for starters.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so what is it that you do for your job?
Well, most people don't even know that there is a film commissioner in town.
Yeah.
So my job is kind of multi-level. My immediate job is to market this area to filmmakers from out of town to attract production spending. So I go to Sundance Film Festival, I go to events and industry events in New York City and in LA to meet filmmakers, to talk to them about the benefits of shooting in upstate New York, and New York in general, because there's a really great incentive program for filmmakers to come to New York. Mm-hmm. We also work with the local infrastructure to keep it strong, to help businesses to grow a little more and have more services here. And we assist with local productions also. If there's a local producer who's looking for access permit for a park or for a city street, mm-hmm. we work with them also.
So if a producer decides to do a film here, what are they looking for from the Film Commission?
From the Film Commission, they're looking for to help them to make their production a little more seamless. Oh. So they're looking for information about the infrastructure and the support services that are here. Hotel, good hotel room rates. Sometimes it's location photos. Every single project truly is different, mm-hmm. because every script is different. Uh-huh. So sometimes they can be in a woods, but they could be in a Monroe County Park in a woods, and they don't have to really be out remotely in a woods somewhere. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it's homes, it could be golf courses. We get a lot of calls for cottages.
Cottages?
Yeah, lakeside cottages. We get a lot of calls for those, so we have contacts down in the Finger Lakes area that can help us. Uh-huh. They're kind of a concierge, and they help the filmmakers find the right cottage.
So you're scouting locations for them?
We don't technically, well, we scout locations that they're here. We send reference photos, and what you're looking for is here, but there are people in town who do that professionally.
I see.
So I don't want to take work away from them.
I see. Uh-huh.
So when it comes down to contacting a homeowner or a property owner or a business owner, we leave that up to the professionals.
I see. So there are local professionals whom you can refer to the production companies?
Surprisingly enough, there are. And there are local grips and gaffers and cinematographers, and Rochester has a very strong crew base because of our Kodak history.
Kodak history?
Kodak, every time they would come out with a new film stock, the filmmakers here would shoot on it and test it before anyone else did. And then they would bring in really famous cinematographers to test the film out and mm-hmm. do a testimonial, and the crew here in Rochester worked with them. So they're very experienced working with serious professionals in the industry because they work with them all the time. That
was the standard film for filmmaking for years and years and years, Kodak film.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a film purist. I mean, I respect the digital uh-huh. technology and the digital world that we're in, uh-huh. but I really believe that if they say it almost looks like film, then film must be the aspirational uh-huh. format.
Now, in terms of local needs, do they have equipment needs that you fill locally also? Or?
They do, mm-hmm. and you wouldn't probably know this either, but there are grip and electric houses in town. There's camera houses in town where they can rent all the gear that they need. Uh-huh. If there's bigger lights and things that aren't available here, we have a contact in New York who used to work here, who owns a grip and electric house in New York, and so he's happy to supplement packages with what they need. Currently, there's a film shooting in Syracuse, in Rochester, and in Buffalo, so everybody's a little stretched right now, but we want to see that happen a lot more.
And how about sound? Is there a sound stage that you use locally?
Believe it or not, there is a sound stage. Okay. There's a couple of sound stages. Uh-huh. Young Lion Studios out at Kodak Elm Grove. Oh. There's a huge Hollywood-style sound stage there.
Really?
The Kodak Theater for the Performing Arts, yes, is that what it's called? There's a sound stage space there that's a qualified space. There's smaller spaces also, and RIT is about to build Magic Spell Studios, and that will be a qualified soundstage as well.
So there are several options there.
There are several options.
So does the creative team come to Rochester to meet with you in advance, or work remotely, or how does it
Every job's different.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes they'll send a scout Once we've provided reference photos, they'll send a scout up to look at the locations and start to get a feel for the area and the rest of the infrastructure. There are times when we will invite the filmmakers up to do what we call a FAM tour, a familiarization tour, and we'll put them in a hotel, pick them up, drive them around, show them what they need, introduce them, soundstage, equipment, key crew people, production offices, hotel site visits.
Oh, yeah.
We do all that with the filmmakers.
Also, you mentioned hotels. I mean, they must bring a whole cast and crew.
They do. Well, a lot of times they do. There are films, we can crew up an entire production with locals.
Wow.
Most productions want to bring, if they're bringing their director, then the director wants his cinematographer, and the cinematographer is probably going to want his gaffer. Gaffer may want his key grip. There's art department people. Currently, the one we're working with, they just came off a job in Ohio. Iowa. And so they were coming right to this job, so several of them came because they'd already just worked together on a film. They know each other, the dynamic, and so they come into town. So yeah, it's a lot of hotel rooms.
A lot of hotel rooms.
And that's another service that we provide. We have our office mates that visit Rochester. We'll put out an RFP to all of the hotels for the dates and the total number of rooms. And the hotels answer back with the favorable rate that they can offer during that time period. And we send that right to the producer so that saves them time of calling around, looking for hotels, and then trying to renegotiate. They know the services, if it comes with breakfast, if there's a pool, how close it is to their locations.
So time is of the essence in film production.
Right, yes, but the hotel rooms has a huge impact on the regional economy. You know, when Spiderman was here, it was 3,300 hotel room nights.
Oh, you're referring to the major feature film production of Spiderman.
Of Spiderman, Amazing Spider-Man 2. They booked 3,300 hotel room nights in the 10 days that they were here. You know, it was 330 crew members that came in, because it's a very specialized, you know, car chases, car crashes, you really need a specialized crew for that. The production we're working with right now has between 1,000 and 100 or 1,100 hotel room nights.
And are they, besides behind the camera talent, is there in front of the camera talent that's used locally also?
The extras and some of the speaking parts, and some of the, you know, there's background extras who don't speak or have any real name, and then there's extras who have a name but don't have a speaking part. When they say, hey, go talk to Bob, and then they see Bob, Bob has a name now, and so he's another step up from just being a background extra. And then some of the one-lines and stuff are actually local people that they have cast.
Oh, and so they could audition, local actors could audition for this?
Yes, there's casting all the time, and on our Facebook page, Rochester Finger Lakes Film Commission Facebook page, we post about all the castings that are going on in town.
So they could look on Facebook, Rochester Finger Lakes Film Commission on Facebook, and find the casting.
And then, of course, then there's the lead actors who come in, and they're usually pretty significant names, and that's, again, why I'm doing my job if you're not hearing about it.
Oh, I see. So your job is to give them everything they need, but keep it under the radar so they can work in privacy for a while?
Yes. I sign a non-disclosure agreement. I send a non-disclosure agreement to every filmmaker that contacts us.
Interesting.
So that I won't talk about their project outside of them and my assistant are really the only people that hear about it, until we need to start bringing people in, and then they tell me who's in the loop and who I can talk to. So like media can call me, I will turn them over to the production if they want some exposure, some visibility, and if they want to keep it under wraps. You know, it's their intellectual property. They want to keep that safe.
So, you know, you mentioned local productions also. So far we've talked about productions coming in from out of town. And are local film producers using your services as well?
Sure. Not all of them. Most of them feel like they're pretty independent and they can move in and out of areas on their own and they don't need our help. Usually with local people we get a call and it's an emergency. You know, we need a permit, or we just got kicked off of our location because we didn't have a permit. I don't think people take it seriously that if you're shooting on city property or county property, you have to have a permit, you have to have insurance. You know, there's requirements, because the city and the county don't want to be liable for someone who's just setting up a camera and someone gets hurt.
Sure.
So they want to have a permit. They want to know what's going on. The biggest thing is drones now.
Drones.
You cannot operate a drone in the city of Rochester.
Oh, yeah.
And that's FAA because it's within 5 miles of the airport.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
get a waiver. It takes 90 days. You can get an extended waiver for a year. But then you still have to call the tower. You have to call Mercy Flight, anybody who might be flying into that area.
Oh, yeah.
So people are always going down to High Falls and, you know, shooting with drone footage, and they come up and the wind takes it, ends up on the roof at the Kodak building.
Oh,
and it has happened several times.
Oh, my.
And there they sit because
Some of the
not getting them back.
Some of the things we don't know to expect in the film industry. So, you know, now we've talked about feature films, but is it television, and what other kind of films are being produced here?
Music videos.
Music videos.
Yes, we recently had a group called Ex-Ambassadors. They did their music video here, and at the same time there was a 5-day shoot going on that was covering the craft brewers in the area.
Craft brewers.
That was a 5-day shoot that hired a bunch of crew people. At the same time, pre-production was going on with this shoot. Those all came in from out of town, hired all locals. There's a lot of local production companies that do their commercials here, web content, shoot
Web
their own
content.
music videos, short films, a lot of student films. I teach at RIT,
Oh, I
and
see.
my assistant also, he teaches a hands-on camera assist class.
That's the Rochester Institute of Technology.
Yes,
Okay.
and so they know to call our office, so
I
we
see.
help a lot of student filmmakers too.
Student filmmakers. And how about documentaries and that sort of thing?
There's a lot of documentaries shot here. There's a group called the Rochester Documentary Group.
Oh.
They have a huge following and lots of attendance at their events and their screenings and stuff. It's run by a woman named Linda Maroney, or she kind of oversees it. There's very dedicated documentary filmmakers in
My,
Rochester.
my.
Yeah.
So, you know, Rochester's film history goes way back. George Eastman is the most prominent name. Who else would others know that have been important in film history here?
Well, Louise Brooks, I guess, lived here
Louise
for a
Brooks,
while.
yeah.
There's a name I can't tell you because he's going to be in this film that's coming up, so I can't tell you his name. Robert Forster is from here.
My, oh my.
It's really hard for me to...
Well, I heard a rumor that Humphrey Bogart went to school in Canandaigua.
Really?
Yeah. So, you
Well,
know.
it's another one of those Hollywood rumors, probably. We might never ever know the real... Oh, well, of course, we had Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman,
Yeah.
of course. That's
Did some amazing work, yeah. Friends with his mom.
That's very, very, very neat. Well, now, how does one become a film commissioner? Do you train for this, or?
Well, I'll tell you how I became a film commissioner. The Film Commission was actually started like 26 years ago.
Oh.
So we've been around for a while. Jerry Steffes started it with June Foster. June Foster is the ex-wife of Robert Forster, and another good friend. So Jerry started the Film Commission, and then New York State took him to their office, and June took over. And I was working on films all over the globe, all over the place, and it was time for me to kind of stay closer to home. And so I accepted the position of deputy director at the Film Commission, and then when June retired, I ended up the executive director. So it really, to be a film commissioner, you need to have a strong knowledge of film and the infrastructure and all the support services, and also the region that you're in. Well, I'm from here, so I know the Finger Lakes, and I know where the wineries are, and I know, you know, I'm really familiar with one of the biggest questions we get is, you know, we need hills and we need farms. And I explained to them that the farms with hills are because of our glacial formations that are here. And that's why we have the wine that's here. And so you really need to be familiar with the region, and that also is a good point.
Yeah, and did you train for this? Is there schooling or certification of any kind? Or?
No, working in film with other film commissions, what I did was I took the best things that other film commissions did while I was working with them, and I also saw some of the things that mistakes that film commissions made, so when I took over, I kind of blended it together. The thing that's unique about our film commission, especially in New York State, is we're the only film commission that has people there that actually worked in production before. You know, my assistant is the technical guy. He knows all the cameras. He knows who has what lights and what's the newest technology and all those things. I'm more the community face of the film commission and the community as it is.
And you come from a production background yourself?
I do. I worked in production for a couple of decades. Started off as a production assistant, and I won't tell you the year, but I just worked my way up from, you know, watching what the coordinator did. Oh, I can do that. And then a production manager. Okay, let me try that. And this film needs a production manager. I've never done it, but I think I can. And so I worked my way up to being an executive producer on feature films.
Oh, that's phenomenal. So then you interface with Visit Rochester for a lot of the local services and that sort of
Well,
thing.
we share space with Visit Rochester, but we are a separate nonprofit.
I
We're
see.
a 501c3
I see.
nonprofit. And it really works out because we have office, we have phones, we have the copiers and everything that we need, and we take up a very small footprint. We're just 2 offices over there.
I see.
But we do interface with them for hotels and also for locations many times, or who is the contact at the Strong Museum of Play, or who do I contact at this Visit Rochester member. So while we're located at the Visit Rochester offices, we're also members of Visit Rochester.
I see, members of. And so during production week, what's your phone schedule like? Are you getting calls and, you know?
Yes, they're almost any time, because, you know, production offices, the people in the production office, they don't have set hours. It's not 9 to 5. So we've never been a 9 to 5 film commission since I started there. My phone is always on, because production isn't 9 to 5. If you're shooting overnight and something goes wrong, if you're, you know, if you need to reach me, my phone is on all the time. It's going to be interesting during this time period because it's an aggressive shoot, but it also is, it's really in the heart of all the filmmakers to get this film made.
And you're talking about the current production.
The current production,
the current
yes.
production. And do we have production stacked up, or is in Rochester and the region demand for filmmaking?
We have this production that started pre-pro in August. Starts shooting next week, and then there's another film coming to do pre-production in October, shooting in November.
So it'll roll out the rest of this year.
Yes. We probably, I'd say between 6 and 12 feature films a year. But you know, our region is really from just this side of Syracuse to Letchworth State Park and the lake to the Pennsylvania border, essentially, because there's no film commissions down there. But call it 14 counties that we have our finger on, you know, for productions, for locations. And we have good relationships with the leadership of all the different counties and towns and things, and so we just keep moving stuff around. We had a production here in the spring that was Dick Wolf.
Oh, yeah.
Law and Order. That was totally under the radar down in the Finger Lakes area. We kept everything quiet, and they came in and they shot, and out they went.
So it's television too?
It's, well, his project may have been a feature film. I would have to,
feature film.
that was too many months ago to remember exactly what it was.
Well, you know, the film industry is changing so much, and now there's so much streaming. How has that affected what you do?
It hasn't really changed what we do very much. It's just the equipment that they need to shoot it on.
I
You know,
see.
that's going to all be shot on digital platform. And with Hulu and Netflix, we're seeing budgets getting smaller, but the project's getting more interesting. And I think a lot of the actors and filmmakers understand that they've got to do the same with less money. So they get a little more creative, and that's where we come in, because, you know, there's a house on Blue Bloods that the commissioner lives in, Tom Selleck's character, and to rent that for the day is probably $5,000 a day.
Oh my.
We have that same house in Brighton for $500 a day.
I see.
So you really can come upstate. And again, you know, New York State has a film incentive program that gives you 30% refund on your below-the-line spending.
30%.
And then upstate, there's a 10% bump on your below-the-line labor.
Oh my.
So that has been very helpful. It's interesting because people say, oh, that tax money could be used somewhere else for this purpose. It's $420 million, which represents $1.26 billion in spending in the state. And you have to spend the money in New York in order to get it. And what a lot of filmmakers are doing now is they're pre-financing their refund from New York, and they're spending that on the production. So it's not like it's going back to Hollywood or going in someone's pocket. It's actually, they're spending 100% of their budget plus 30% below the line on the film itself.
Locally?
Locally, yes, if you stay upstate. So every dollar spent on production in this region represents $2.30 in economic impact.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal.
It's about jobs, and not just the jobs for the crew people that work on it, but restaurants and dry cleaners and printers, and they need all of these services. They have to rent a copier, they have to rent an office space, and they hire people to work in there. So it really all is about jobs.
My, oh my, and when Spiderman was here, for instance, the crowds were enormous.
Crowds were enormous. Thousands of people came downtown to watch Spiderman, and there's an ice cream store right down St. Paul around the corner, and we call it Spiderman weather because it was beautiful. It rained for like 2 hours during the whole time they were here, and so people just came out. I have friends in Lyons who drove to the city because they wanted to see the production.
Oh, that's phenomenal. And so how do you work with local film festivals and that sort of thing? Rochester has some interesting ones.
We do, and we do what we can to support each one of the festivals. We will buy a pass, we'll attend. We like to meet with the filmmakers who come in because we can say, gee, your next film, why don't you think about shooting here?
Nice.
And I also am the artistic director for the Women's Film Festival, High Falls.
Oh, interesting. And what time of year does that happen?
It is in November. This year it's November 2nd through the 6th.
So people could watch it for it in that first week of November every year, or likely around then?
This year we're bringing back an old friend. In 2015 we screened a film called Souf about a woman who was a caterer and her life and her marriage and stuff, and they kind of left us hanging whether she gets back with her husband or not, and so now the producer or the director has shot Souf 2. So we're bringing Souf back in 2017 to our film festival. So all of our screenings are at the Little Theater.
The Little Theater in downtown
Either
Rochester.
1 or 5.
I see. That's a very good art house kind of a theater.
It's a gem. It's something that a lot of cities don't have, and they screen films that you might not see anywhere else. And you just have an opportunity. You've got this diamond right down there on East Avenue to go to see films.
A nice entertainment evening kind of meals and everything.
In a great district, yes, with restaurants and music, the little cafe, and it's really it's something that a lot of cities don't have, and we brag about that a lot.
Oh, that is phenomenal. And how about other film festivals of interest? What other should people know?
All of them. There's Movies on a Shoestring, which is now called Rochester International Film Festival. There's Image Out, which is the LGBTQ festival.
I see.
There's The Little does their One Take Docs festival now. There's Jewish Film Festival, Polish Film Festival. There's almost always some kind of a film festival going on, and it's great because you immerse yourself in films from a completely different culture. We feature women filmmakers. I'm a woman filmmaker, so I kind of gravitate towards that. But it's great to go to the Jewish Film Festival, and the films that they get are incredible.
Oh, that is really neat. And so, how about other attributes of this area that make it especially great for film production? Is it something that people can't find elsewhere? Weather and locale, and I'm thinking it must be. We have all kinds of locales here.
Right. We're very similar to Massachusetts, Ohio, Pennsylvania. It's deciduous trees, and it's pretty much the same glacial deal.
Right.
The vineyards here, I think, the Finger Lakes are a gem. Our downtown is just big enough to look like a city and small enough to not be overwhelming. And so shooting on city streets, I would say one of the most important things here is that getting a permit is seamless. They'll send you to the film office first. We'll go through the paperwork and go to the permit office with you. I just cleared a permit for this feature film that's going to shoot, and we clear permits all the time for stuff inside the city.
I see.
It's affordable. A location permit here is $75 or $70. In New York City, it's $300.
Oh my!
And then with that comes bagging meters and putting cones, and it's so seamless to get a permit here. If you just call us first, we can walk you right through the process, and you're shooting.
It's fascinating. And so, if film people want to find out more about shooting in Rochester, or local people want to find out more about what it is you do, how do they find you on the web?
Our website is filmrochester.org, and our Facebook page is Rochester Finger Lakes Film Commission on Facebook.
That's phenomenal. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming in. It's just been delightful to talk with you today, and we hope that many successful projects find their way to Rochester.
Thank you for having me. I love being here.
My guest today has been Nora Brown. She's Executive Director of the Rochester Finger Lakes Film Commission. Thanks again, Nora. It's been great.
Thank you.
Does it feel like a relief, huh? Does it feel like a weight off your shoulders?